Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dadab. Well, it's been a pretty jam-packed week with the holidays and whatnot, but it's officially game day, so we got to jump right back into it. We haven't really, I was supposed to do it yesterday, ran out of time. We haven't really talked about Baltimore very much. So that's primarily going to be what we're looking at. Baltimore, how they play, some tendencies, things of that nature, and obviously who they even are. We got some questions at quarterback, obviously, Lamar being doubtful and whatnot, but that is going to primarily be the plan. We'll see where that leaves us. I don't know how much time that's going to leave us, but that's the plan. First of all, just some very broad strokes overview of the Baltimore Ravens, because they are a very uncommon opponent, even though they are a pretty high-profile team. Having a very down year. They haven't seen a year like this since 2021. Season isn't over yet, but assuming they don't get to 10 wins, that would be the second time since 2018. It's also only going to be the second time they miss the playoffs since 2018. For reference, Lamar Jackson joined the team as the starting quarterback in 2019. So even going back to the final year of Joe Flacco, they have been to the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years, not including this year, which would make it 6 of 8. The Ravens' offense has been a top 10 offense prior to this season 4 of the last 6 years, almost top 5 offense 4 of the last 6 years. They were 7th in 2020. And the one of the 2 years, well, I guess a better way to put it is they've also had a top 10 defense, 6 of the last 7. And so 2021 and this year are the only 2 years going back to 2019. Actually, you know what? You'd have to go back to, you'd have to go back to 2015, where they haven't had a top 10 offense or defense. So this year, 2021, and then you have to go back to 2015. So independently, they've fluctuated offensively and defensively. This is one of the years where neither cracked the top 10. They're currently ranked 13th. This is just points. 13th on offense and 16th on defense. Lamar Jackson has had quite a bit of injury issues over the course of his career, and generally when he is having injury issues, the team struggles. Go figure. Kind of a weird up and down year for Baltimore. They actually started the season 1-5. Then they had their bye week, came out of their bye week, and went 5-0 to go to 5-5. Or excuse me, they went 5-0 to go to 6-5. And then since week 13, they have gone 1-3 to fall now to 7-8. Their only win being over the Cincinnati Bengals, who they beat 24-0. In fact, the only playoff team that they've beaten is the Chicago Bears, who they beat 30-16. And if we chart that out by quarterback, yes and no as far as Lamar being hurt being part of that equation, but not really, because the team is 7-8, so they're basically a 500 team. With Lamar Jackson, they're 6-6. Tyler Huntley is 1-0. Cooper Rush is 0-2. Lamar Jackson specifically, his games went loss, win, loss, loss, win, 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 loss, loss, win, loss. So there's no real pattern here to, it's the quarterback or it's, getting hot or getting cold. It's just been a very rough up and down season for the Baltimore Ravens. If we try to adjust for, who they beat, how badly they beat them, all that kind of stuff, we look at DVOA. Baltimore Ravens overall rank 15th. Offensively, they rank 16th. Defensively, they rank 16th. So they are smack dab right in the middle of everything. If we look at their weighted offensive DVOA, just to see are they getting, better or worse over time. Baltimore's offense ranks 19th, which would mean that they are getting worse as time goes on. Defensively, they rank 12th, getting better over time. Some other notes on the Ravens season, strangely, which obviously is not great news, but they tend to struggle a lot more at home this year than on the road. They have a 3-6 record at home, 4-2 on the road. Lamar Jackson's had some serious sack issues this year. Just in the 12 games he played, He was sacked 33 times. That's up from 23 in all of 2024. The coaching staff, by the way, it's somewhat interesting because John Harbaugh is still the head coach there. The more interesting note is Zach Orr is their defensive coordinator. And it's not to say it's all his fault, but the defense took a sharp turn when they went on to hire Zach Orr. Zach Orr was at or near the top of most of our lists of guys we wanted to be our defensive coordinators. Unrelated, but I just saw this pop up. The Raiders shut down Brock Bowers, put him on IR a couple days ago. As of 33 seconds ago from me, Raiders defensive end Max Crosby has been shut down for the season. He disagreed with the decision and has now left the building. Raiders are in full tank mode right now. Mason Crosby, what are you talking about, dude? I'm fine. Like, no, you gotta, you're hurt. It sucks, dude. So, just a couple things before we move into the roster. First of all, about the roster, some of the guys that they've already lost. I mean, and this is an important thing to take note of as well, because you look at the injury report and say, well, we have this many and they have this many. It's also a question of IR, right? I mean, for example, Tucker Kraft isn't on our injury report. So to get the totality of it, you also have to look at their IR suspensions in some cases, like Ben Cleveland, their guard. But anywho, on IR, at least of the guys that matter, it's worth noting Nnamdi Madubuike. Wouldn't necessarily call him an elite football player, but he's a good football player. Third-round pick back in 2020. He's graded in the 70s as a pass rusher the last couple years. Been a double-digit sack guy starting the last couple years. So 2023 was kind of his breakout, I guess you could say, as a pass rusher. 78 pressures and 15 sacks on 575 attempts back in 2023. That went down quite a bit, especially in terms of pressures in 2024. But he was still nearly a top or a 10% pass rush guy. He had 11 sacks. He started off the season, only played 2 games, 72 pass rush grade, 10 pressures on 74 attempts and 2 sacks in just 2 games. He is out, been on IR ever since. Also, running back Justice Hill, not exactly their starting running back, but worth mentioning. Again, Ben Cleveland is out due to suspension. Former third-round pick out of Baltimore. He wasn't their starter, but he was their backup, so it hurts their depth a little bit. Oh, boy. Packers are officially downgrading Jordan Love to out for Saturday. All right, so that just popped up for me, so it looks like we are turning our attention pretty hard to Malik Willis for this week. So it is interesting because I was just going to pivot to this after we did the whole IR thing. There's a lot of question, and I'm not saying this is why this is happening at all, but there's been some question about whether or not the Packers should just shut guys down to try to get healthy for the postseason. My answer to that, at least for this week, would be absolutely not. The reason for that being, again, we have a very real chance of winning out and the Bears losing out. Now, if, for example, we played and we won, and then the Bears go on to beat the 49ers, that dream is dead. We should absolutely just rest against the Vikings. I know it sucks because it's the Vikings. Oh, well, we need to get healthy. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that that's what's happening here. I think especially since it's a concussion, I mean, it's not really something that you would rest when you can play through, you know what I mean? It's not like a tight hamstring. It's kind of a good or not good kind of a situation, as far as I know. Looks like Clayton Tune will be the backup for Malik Willis. Christian Welch is going to go to IR. Banks and Savion questionable tomorrow with illness. Sorry, this is just popping up. I'm just going through it as it's coming up. I guess Savion and Banks are added because of that bug that's been going around, so that is their issue. So again, this is all new and kind of off the dome, but I guess my thought would be, number one, again, this is my perspective, you don't shut down when you got the division on the line. That seems common sense to me. And if you're asking me in terms of would that be a fireable offense, I would say at least borderline, yeah, probably. But again, I don't think that that's what's happening. There is a secondary question, though. If you have the playoffs locked up and your quarterback is out, Do you then maybe get a little bit more conservative with the rest of your guys? Again, I would say you shouldn't, especially considering how good of a player Malik is and how winnable of a game it is against the Ravens, especially at home. You don't cash it in with the division on the line against a winnable opponent in your home stadium. So, no, I don't think that should change anything in terms of going all out to win this game. Now, with that said, win, lose, or draw, win, lose, or draw, if the Bears win, we cannot win the division. Now, there's been a lot of debate about this. There is every single year in terms of should you start your sit your starters, et cetera, et cetera. I have probably vacillated on this a decent amount. I don't know what my position or positions have been over the years, but I can tell you definitively if we have the playoffs locked up and cannot get the second seed, we sit everybody. The way that injuries have been going on, last year was a great example. What happened? We decided to play our starters against the Bears in a game that didn't freaking matter, and our quarterback got hurt again. Way too many injuries, way too much crap going on. I don't care about the Vikings, about anything else. You're in the playoffs. You get in there as healthy as you possibly can. And all this stuff about, too much time off or whatever. Okay, cool. Practice in your time off, dude. I didn't say you had to sit at home freaking in your bed. You got 2 weeks to heal up and to get prepared, presumably for the Chicago Bears. Do that. But in the meantime, unless and until that happens, you're going all out. That would be my thought. All right. Let's take a break here. We'll come back. We'll start ripping through the Baltimore Ravens roster and see what we're up against. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right. So starting off with the quarterbacks here. First of all, to my understanding, Lamar is doubtful. That doesn't necessarily mean out, but we're going to assume that he is out for the sake of things. And if he comes back, well, then it is what it is, I guess. I'll say this about Lamar. He certainly not having the kind of season that he had last year or the last several years. It was closer to his 2021 year, which he has had a bit of an up and down career. I think Lamar, when healthy, is probably a quarterback that I would take over just about anybody in the NFL if I could pick any quarterback. If you said 1 year, perfectly healthy, which quarterback do you want? I would probably take Lamar. But it has been pretty up and down. 2024 being his best year via PFF. This year, just a 70 PFF grade with some really bad games mixed in. How much of that is injury, I don't know. And I also don't know how much more his body is going to be able to hold up. First of all, just being a mobile quarterback in and of itself probably means you're going to have a lesser career unless you can become a passer. And Lamar is shown to be a pretty solid passer, at least at times. Whether or not you can make that work full-time, I don't know. But just that compounding with the amount of injuries he's had this year, it's a lot. His body has taken an absolute beating. But he got the big, massive paycheck, so he'll be fine. As for Tyler Huntley, he's not necessarily an unknown commodity. He's been around a little while. I think, in my estimation, that works to our advantage. There's the whole, backup quarterback thing, which we tend to think is just a Packers thing. Really, it's not. It's, quarterbacks or teams struggle against backup quarterbacks that first week, at least. But if you ask yourself why, it seems relatively obvious, especially when you factor in that it's 1 week generally. It's because it's an unknown commodity and Tyler Huntley is not. Tyler Huntley first played for Baltimore back in 2020. He's been around a long time. He had one stint in Miami for 1 year and came right back to Baltimore. It's not to say there won't be complications, but Tyler Huntley has played a ton of football, especially for Baltimore. So how he plays, how Baltimore plays him, all that is there is a ton of tape on that question. And as much as he's played some good football, he helped to blow out the Bears like 30-12 or whatever the case may be. His record with Baltimore, and remember, Baltimore generally has a phenomenal record just across the board. Like we've already kind of gone over that. They're a 10, 11, 12 win team almost every year. His career record for the Baltimore Ravens when subbing in for Lamar since 2018 is 5-12. He has thrown for 319 yards and 1 touchdown so far this year in the 3 games that he's played. Now, only one of those was a starter, but still, it was a 67.7 passing grade, 186 yards and a touchdown, 1 big-time throw, 1 turnover-worthy play. Not exactly dominant football, especially when you're talking about a blowout against Chicago, which is what that game was, essentially. They dominated, but only 186 yards of that production came by way of Tyler Huntley. In his, in the 2025 season, he's also had 16 carries across 4 different games for 91 yards, 5.7 yards per attempt, 77 rushing grade, 1.8 yards after contact per attempt, and 0 missed tackles forced. So Tyler Huntley's a decent, if you got to have a backup, Tyler Huntley is a solid option at backup quarterback, but he is a backup, and he is not Lamar. Anything that you would like about Lamar, Tyler Huntley is less than that. Generally described as more of a game manager. He doesn't have the deep ball like Lamar does. He doesn't have the athleticism that Lamar does. Not pretty much anybody on planet Earth has the combination of arm strength and athleticism that Lamar does, but this is not a dynamo quarterback. I don't expect Tyler Huntley will get the call anytime to, it's happened in the past, with Geno and whatnot, sort of these career backup types that all of a sudden get the call to be a number 1 and it sticks, but I don't think that Tyler Huntley's that level of guy. And again, I don't think that this is the same as a lot of other backup situations because Tyler Huntley has played a ton of football. In total, 564 passing attempts. That's a full season of starting passing. Jordan has thrown 439 passes so far this year. Looking at their wide receivers, Zay Flowers is currently their wide receiver 1. He has 106 targets. The next highest is 59. The next highest wide receiver is 35. And that's with the same amount of games across all 3 of those. So, he is by far the number 1. He's already cracked 1,000 yards with 1,043, but just 2 touchdowns, has a 79 receiving grade. He's especially their top target when it comes to zone coverage. So kind of like Jaden Reed for us. If you're going with zone, you better watch out for that guy. Zay Flowers is kind of the pick you apart in zone guy. He doesn't, from a PFF standpoint, he doesn't usually have like elite games. Statistically, he has had 2 games over 100 yards. He's only had 1 game in the 80s or higher. However, he's very consistent. He's like my dream player. He's had, let's see here, 4 games below a 70, 3 below a 60, and 1 below a 50. He has also been consistent across his 3 years at Baltimore. His grades were 76, 82, and right now a 77. And I'm sure that slight dip probably has something to do with the instability at quarterback. They've had 3 different quarterbacks this year. So he's a good receiver, for sure. He's a tiny guy, but he's good. After that is Rashad Bateman. DeAndre Hopkins has actually taken slightly more in terms of targets. He's their highest graded receiver, so I don't know why he's not utilized more. But Bateman has only played in 12 games, Hopkins all 15. And in 3 less games, he's run over 100 more routes, has 1 less target, and 4 less receptions. So he's definitely their number 2 receiver. Only has a 55 PFF grade. Again, I'm guessing it's just because he's their guy and DeAndre is sort of a part-timer, but you brought him in. Why not use him? I don't understand. But despite the amount of routes he's run, he's been really, really lacking in any kind of production, hence his 55 grade. He has less than 1 yard per route run. He's missed, like I said, I think 3 games, but still just 18 receptions, 217 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the season. And then you've got DeAndre Hopkins, 35 targets, 22 receptions, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, 84 receiving grade. He signed a 1-year deal. He's in there just filling in. Again, I don't know why he isn't getting more love, but he's not. The other targets that they have are the tight ends. Mark Andrews is actually the second most targeted guy. He's kind of their receiver two, not wide receiver two, but receiver two. Obviously a well-known commodity. He is 30 years old and is having by far the worst year of his career. I don't know what the cause is for this really hard turn, but if you look at his grades since his rookie year, 75, 87, 77, 91, 79, 79, 85. So he's hovering at like an 80 with a couple 90s mixed in. This year, 60 receiving grade. He's gone from 761 yards last year. He's down to 380. His yards per reception, his lowest was, 11.7 back in 2020. It's currently at 9. He has 5 touchdowns right now, which is not his lowest. His lowest was his rookie year at 3, although not a ton of targets at that time. He did just hit 30 years old, so I don't know if it's just a hard left turn based on age. I don't know of any injuries, but that's a big downturn. And then the other is Isaiah Likely. And Isaiah Likely is more of the young up-and-coming tight end. Kind of burst onto the scene a little bit more last year with his 77 grade, 603 yards and 7 touchdowns. Those are highs in each of those categories. But a big down year this year. 22 receptions, 248 yards only. He had, again, 600 last year. And his 7 touchdowns are down to 1 touchdown. His 77 grade is down to a 53. Those would all be lows depending on how the next 2 weeks go. Looking at their run game, that still runs through the big man, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, now 31 years old. He also is having a bit of a down year. It's not his first time having a down year, but it is a massive down year considering last year was his highest PFF grade ever. It was his most yards ever. It was his most touchdowns ever. I don't know if 2024 just ran him down or if he's just suffering from the same symptom as the rest of the team, which is just kind of struggling to find its stride, whether that's, again, a Lamar injury or an offensive line issue or whatever the case is, I don't know. But last year, nearly 2,200 yards in 2024. So far this year, 1,200, meaning although there's a couple games left, he is nearly 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards short. His 6 yards per attempt are down to 5 yards per attempt, which is still solid. His 19 touchdowns are currently down to 12. His 94 overall grade is down to a 73, and his 94 rushing grade is down to a 72. He had 87 missed tackles forced last year, which was, like everything else, his best. He's currently at 33, which would be his lowest of his career, not including his first year and second, maybe his second year. He might pass the second year. It's currently less than that. But he wasn't even really a starter until 2019. This was 2-3 years prior to that. So this isn't to say he's a bad running back. I mean, we're talking 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 yards per attempt, and a 72 rushing grade. He's a good running back. But it's important to mention these things because sometimes, especially with uncommon opponents, we get stuff stuck in our head. We remember Lamar from last year. We remember Derrick Henry from last year as the 2,200-yard running back, not realizing stuff can change and change drastically and fast. There have been some rumblings in Baltimore about Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, possibly misusing Derrick Henry, not using him enough on third down situations, which seems crazy, and also abandoning the run game too quickly when things kind of don't work out very well in that capacity. But he is on a little bit of a tear. The last, let's see, if you look at so he's got 6 games of 100 yards or more. 2 of those have been the last 2 weeks. He has 5 yards per carry, but 6 or more yards per carry 3 of the last 4 weeks. He had 6, I mean, granted, 2 of them are Cincinnati and whatever, but 6 against Cincinnati, 9.1 against Cincinnati, and then 7.1 against New England. And he's also got, I mean, it's been pretty bad. I mean, he had 1 game graded in the 70s through week 10. He has 4 since week 11, 13, 15, and 16. None graded in the 80s. So, I mean, this is a guy, and, you know, again, people always roll their, oh, that's PFF. PFF gave him a 94 grade last year. This isn't like some weird Derrick Henry bias. The same people that gave him a 94 last year are giving him a 72 this year. That's worth noting. Finally, let's take a look at that offensive line. Off the left side is longtime tackle Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley is 31 and a half, going on 32 years old. He's been pretty consistent throughout his career as like a Packers tackle, really good pass blocker, run blocker. This is one of his best run blocking years at a 73. However, I mean, not including injured years, this is probably his worst pass blocking year. So there is that steady decline. Just looking at 20. So he got his elite years were basically his rookie year, but then it ramped up through 2018, 19, and 20. Those were his best years, with 2019 being his absolute best. 2021, he got hurt. He was battling through injuries ever since. You can tell he did not play full seasons in 2022 or 2023, but his pass blocking grades were 82, 76, 81, and now a 73. So again, he's still good. He's really good when you factor in the run blocking also is pretty decent. But this is a declining left tackle and a guy that they're going to. So it's one of the things with Baltimore that's going to be rough. And again, I don't usually care that much about Baltimore. I generally kind of root for them and Buffalo, just because they're good teams and, you know, I don't hate them. But I mean, this is a team that feels like they've got a bit of a closing window. Their star tight end is on the way out. The star left tackle is on the way out. Their star quarterback has endured a billion injuries. Their star running back is kind of running out of gas. They've never really had premier receivers. They got a decent one now, who's in year 3. But it's not looking like this is a super long-term window for them. Things can turn around quick, but it is a, as of right now, pretty quickly closing window. At left guard, Andrew Voorhees. He officially won the job this year for the first time as a 2023 7th-round pick. He played a little in 2024, won the job in 2025, has a 57 run blocking grade and a 55 pass blocking grade. He's really not very good. He's also dealing with a foot injury. Should be good to go in the game against us, but that's another notable issue. At center is Tyler Linderbaum, one of the actual solid young pieces on this team. Probably remember him, actually, was a first-round pick in 2022. A lot of talk about him to the Packers. He is decidedly not a Packers offensive lineman. He has been a dominant run blocker for a very long time. The pass blocking, though, is just a 64 grade. And really, he's been pretty consistently good. He just has some crap games mixed in. So, I mean, if you look at it, the majority of his games are 70 or higher, but he's got a 43, a 24, a 51, a 33, and a 42 mixed in, which brings his average down to a 63. So, bottom line, pending him having one of his bad days, he is a pretty solid pass blocker and a top-tier run blocker. He is kind of the heart of their run game, which is staggering a little bit, mostly because of everybody else, but yeah, he's a solid player. Then at right guard, you got Daniel Faalele. He's been with Baltimore as a 4th-round pick since 2022. He just got the starting gig in 2024 when he started being a right. He's one of those guys that bounced around all over the place. He mostly played left and right tackle for the first 2 years. Got the starting gig in last year as the right guard. It hasn't gone great. He's kind of just 60s across the board. Not bad, not good. He's just kind of there. And then at right tackle, they've got second-year player, both second round and second year, Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. He's taken a pretty big step from year 1 to year 2. He's gone from a 69 to a 74 pass blocking grade and from a 60 to a 71 run blocking grade. So he's actually doing quite well. So the offensive line is decent. I mean, aside from, I guess, left guard, which is really just kind of below average, they're a pretty solid unit. The guards are not great. The center and the tackles are pretty solid, even if they are old and declining. All right, Let's take our final break. We'll come back and take a little stroll through their defense. All right, moving on to the defense now. At defensive tackle, their DT1 is Travis Jones. Travis Jones, 78 run defense, 64 pass rush, just under 10% pressure rate and 3 sacks. So he is a 340-pound run defender. That's what he is. Not terrible, honestly, of a pass rusher considering his size. But clearly he is a big, stout, interior run defender. Their number 2 defensive tackle is John Jenkins, 36 years old. He has played for just about every team in the NFL, 3.5 years for New Orleans, half a year in Seattle. Then he went to Chicago, then to the Giants, then to Miami, then to Chicago, then back to Miami for 2 years, then to Las Vegas for 2 years, and now with Baltimore. So there's that. 63 run defense, 67 pass rush, 7 pressures and 1 sack on 224 attempts. So he is not a pass rusher. I don't know exactly what purpose he serves, but he's there, and he's a veteran presence, I guess. And you've got Brent Urban, another 35-year-old guy. Also spent a good amount of time in other places, although primarily Baltimore. 4 years in Baltimore, then Chicago, Tennessee, Chicago, Dallas, and then back to Baltimore for 4 years. He's never been a good pass rusher, used to be a good run defender. Now he's at 61 run defense, 52 pass rush, 7 pressures and a sack on 121 attempts. So that is the primary interior. Obviously, they've lost some guys there, so that is part of the situation. But a couple of very old veterans trying to fill in. As for the edge situation, rookie second-round pick Mike Green has been their top pass rusher so far this year. And by top, I just mean he's taken the most snaps. He's a big talk as far as could the Packers possibly draft him. He played at Marshall, so it's kind of a small school, but he's a big freak kind of thing. It's not been great. He fell to the second round, kind of the back of the second round. He has a 43 run defense grade, 57 pass rush grade, 31 pressures, 4 sacks on 357 attempts. Like anything, he could certainly get better over time, but this is a terrible start for Mike Green. And if I'm not mistaken, he had some off-the-field stuff. I can't remember if it was real or how severe or what. I think it was pretty severe, but I don't know if it was real, was the situation with him. But so far, that risk-reward has absolutely not paid off. Van Noy is their top guy. He's missed a little bit of time, but again, 35 years old. Been around a long time. 3 years at Detroit, 4 years in New England, then Miami, then New England, then the Chargers, and then 3 years at Baltimore. Go ahead. Continuing. So, another old dude. He currently has 26 pressures and 2 sacks on 300 attempts, 53 pass rush grade, 68 run defense. Really not good. Then at the trade deadline, they went out and got Draymond Jones, who's a longtime defensive tackle, which I was kind of confused for a minute. I guess he's been converted to outside linebacker. I don't know when that started, but he was an outside linebacker also with Tennessee earlier this year and now with Baltimore. Since being with Baltimore, he has 23 pressures and 3 sacks on 211 attempts, so just over 10%, 3 sacks in a matter of 3, 6, 7 weeks, and a 51 run defense grade. So fine, but not spectacular. And then they've also got Tavius Robinson is the other guy that takes a decent amount of snaps, at least as of the last couple of weeks he has. But he has 13 pressures and 3 sacks on almost 200 attempts, so he's also really not very good. It's a real rough situation over there in Baltimore, man. They're old and not very good, which is not a great combination. At linebacker, they got longtime Chicago Bear Roquan Smith, although it's been about 50-50 almost, the amount of time he spent in both places. He is still a pretty solid linebacker, at least he has become so since he went to Baltimore. He has a 77 grade, 80 run defense, 79 tackling, and 76 coverage. He has some lapses, so, great games and terrible games. But it's pretty rare to catch either of those. He's got maybe 3 or 4 bad games and 3 or 4 really good games. I guess you're as likely as anything else to catch those. Fortunately, the last 2 weeks have been a little bit of down weeks, 61 against Cincinnati, 53 against New England. Then you've got Trenton Simpson, who has taken over as sort of the number, well, I don't even know, actually. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what his primary role is, but he has taken over since week 15, so week 15 and 16 as sort of the number 2 linebacker, I guess. Strangely, PFF lists him as an outside linebacker. And PFF, I don't think really does that for off-ball linebackers, but he's not rushing the passer, so whatever. The other linebacker they have is Teddy Buchanan, but he ended up getting put on IR, presumably, which is what thrust what's-his-name here, Trenton Simpson, into that role. At corner, they have second-year first-round pick Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Wiggins had a pretty solid rookie year, 70 coverage grade, 85 run defense, 73 overall. Even had a 76 pass rush grade. He's down to a 64 overall with a 64 coverage grade and a 62 run defense grade. So, like a lot of other people, taking a pretty big step backward. Then you've got the longtime corner Marlon Humphrey. It's crazy he's only 29 years old. This is year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's had 9 years in the NFL already. But with that said, he is having an awful year. I mean, just god-awful year. Marlon Humphrey has always been solid. He had a 81 grade last year. It was a 63 the year before. It was kind of up and down, I guess. And primarily due to injury. So it was 70s and 80s for 4 straight years. 2021, he had a 65, but he was injured. Bounces back, has a 76. Then 2023, he down to a 63, but was injured again. 2024, not injured, 81 grade. 2025, let's see if he's missed any games here. At least two games he's missed, but it has been awful. He had 1 game greater than the 70s or higher as far as his coverage grade or overall, and that was a 71.5 against Chicago. He has a 40 coverage grade. His lowest grade when not injured was a 75. He has a 40 right now. I would say that the primary reason is because they switched him over to slot. This defensive coordinator obviously has made some changes along with, having different personnel. You got Nate Wiggins and Chidobe Awuzie now slotting in there. So they tried to move Marlon Humphrey into the slot. And that was clearly a disaster. His grades for those weeks were 47, 61, 30, and 35. Those were 3 of his 4 worst games, 3 of his worst games the entire season were in those 4 weeks. It doesn't look like he's playing slot anymore. He does occasionally, but he's not officially designated as that anymore, so they've severely reduced that role. But it's just been pretty rough. Then you got Chidobe Awuzie, free agent signing. He spent 4 years in Dallas, 4 years in Cincinnati, 1 year in Tennessee, and is now in Baltimore having one of his best years, actually, his second best year outside of his rookie year in Dallas, which is kind of a crazy. Again, when I say everybody has a unique career arc, I mean it when I say that. That's one of the kinds of things you see, which is really weird. But 77 overall grade, 78 coverage grade. With that said, though, 3 of his last 4 weeks have been sub 60, and they're the only sub 60s of the entire season. So he hasn't had any sub 60s through week 11. And then weeks 12, 13, 14, and 15, he didn't play week 16. He had 3 games below a 60. Awuzie, one of the guys on the injury report with a foot injury, by the way, he is full go in this game. It also seems like they're trying to figure this corner thing out because the last couple of weeks, Awuzie has played a significantly reduced role. And then also, if you take a look at their roster here, it looks like they're using Kyle Hamilton a lot in the nickel. That is their safety, Kyle Hamilton. So a good, healthy amount of rotation going on. Finally, at safety, you do have Kyle Hamilton, who is primarily listed as a safety, although, again, apparently playing a decent amount in the slot. Let me look at the actual snap counts for that. 25-ish snaps the last 2 weeks he's played in the slot, so that's not insignificant. Hamilton's still one of the best safeties, one of the best players in the NFL. He has an 88 grade, 76 run defense, 76 tackling, 92 pass rush, and an 88 coverage. I mean, the guy's friggin' perfect across the board. I don't know what there is to say about that. He's playing opposite Malachi Starks. He is a rookie first-round pick this year. Malachi hasn't been super great. He has a 68 grade, 82 run defense, 68 tackling, 63 coverage, which doesn't sound terrible. However, it's been mostly bad. He just had a couple of 90s back-to-back against Miami and Minnesota that have kind of propped this up. He's also been on a little bit the last 4 weeks of playing decent football, but it's a lot of 40s and 50s for him. And then the other safety they have is Alohi Gilman. He was a longtime Charger. He got traded to Baltimore, looks like around week 6. 72 grade, 74 run defense, 71 coverage. So the safeties are pretty solid. Again, Malachi Starks, but considering the group, it is a pretty solid group. The corners should be good, but they're having a terrible year, with the exception of the one guy that's injured and apparently not playing a ton, Awuzie. Then you got Roquan, who's a good linebacker. No real good edge rushers. And on the defensive line, defensive tackle-wise, you've got one interior run defender and not a whole lot else going on. Packers, by the way, as of right now, are 3.5-point favorites. I don't remember exactly what that number was, but still considered home favorites by, a field goal plus. Even after the Jordan Love news, 49ers still 3-point favorites. So fingers crossed we get out of this one with a win. Certainly sounds like it's an exploitable defense. Offensively, as per usual, we're going to have to try to stop the run. But again, very winnable game. I am going to leave you all with that. Really, really hoping for a win this week. I think we could use one, even though we've already got the playoffs locked up and a win probably isn't going to move the needle. It would be nice to not go 0-3 the last 3 weeks, especially going into a Minnesota game where we have nothing to play for and probably pull our starters, potentially going to 0-4. We don't freaking need that. So, anywho, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.